Good morning. Thank you for joining me this morning. As many of you are aware, we announced on November 12th that we are proceeding with beginning a national search for a permanent police chief for the City of Columbia Police Department. I'm pleased to announce that the process is well underway and we received numerous inquiries from across the country. We are continuing to move forward and we will receive applications through the closing date of December the 11th. I continue to be committed to conducting a comprehensive nationwide search in order to select and hire a strong, progressive, and innovative law enforcement leader for our city. Our search process and the criteria for potential candidates have been developed and thoroughly reviewed by our Human Resources team, led by our Human Resources Director, Ms. Pamela Benjamin, to my right. There have been questions about the criteria and for the position and how it was crafted. The criteria for the position is based on current standards and best practices within the law enforcement industry. And I really want to repeat that. It's based off current standards and best practices for the law enforcement industry. Both the criteria and the standards that will be used during the search process will allow us to conduct an extensive search while also providing a fair and equitable review of the collective education and experience of each candidate. I am committed to transparency during this search process, and I'm also aware of the importance of the involvement of both the community as well as subject matter experts, which is why I wanted to provide an update in an effort to keep the lines of communication open. At this juncture, I have established a police chief search committee. The search committee will act as a vital resource to me and to Ms. Benjamin as she guides the selection process. The hiring of the police chief and public safety for our city are among my top priorities. I take this process very seriously, and I will engage and consult with those who are vested in our community, which is very key, and who also have stellar law enforcement credentials and a wealth of wisdom in their fields. This approach allows me to not only conduct a very thorough national search with individuals who intimately understand our community, but they're also highly respected and knowledgeable in the law enforcement arena. It also provides a process that is fiscally responsible and able to be guided internally. So we've got a national search, fiscally responsible search, and one that will be guided internally with our very capable staff. The search committee consists of the following individuals, and I want to thank Mr. Robert Bolches, to my right, who will serve as the chairman of this committee. The other members include Patty Patterson, Brian Lampkin, John Osment, and Anson Shells. We will provide a fact sheet with their biographical information upon conclusion of today's press conference. I want to thank Mr. Bolches and the search committee members for agreeing to play a vital role in this very important search process. It's a critical time in our city's history, and their efforts to serve our community are immensely appreciated by me. As we move forward, I will continue to provide updates regarding new developments related to the police chief search process. I will also be establishing a community stakeholders panel to participate in the search process. In addition to individuals I have identified, I will seek suggestions from Mayor Benjamin and council members. Again, I would like to emphasize that the process is still open and all applicants are encouraged to apply by December the 11th. During this stage of the process, all interested applicants should direct their questions and inquiries to the Human Resources Department and specifically to Ms. Benjamin, our primary point of contact. As this process unfolds, we will continue to operate openly and in the best interest of this community at large. The selection of a police chief for our great city is a critical decision, and I will continue to work diligently to ensure that all appropriate measures are taken to select a candidate that will meet the needs of the people of the City of Columbia and the dedicated officers of the Columbia Police Department who so nobly serve us each and every day. Thank you to everyone for your interest and for sharing your thoughts regarding this process, and I do wish you and your families a safe and happy Thanksgiving. At this time, I'll welcome you to ask any questions.
Progressive experience required by the city, and how hard and fast is that?
Certainly, and I may ask Ms. Benjamin to also chime in on that answer, Jack. But essentially, as I've already articulated to many of you, we are starting afresh. We are looking at current standards, what's the national best practices based off a lot of research, and Ms. Benjamin can give details of that research, whether it's through CALEA or other law enforcement associations that actually do that on a day-to-day basis. The national standard that we have come up with in all of those conversations, and every community is different. So no entity is going to tell the city ultimately how many years we choose. However, the standard is 7 to 10 years. And in a city our size, the progressive nature of our city, I felt that that is a good number, a solid number of experience that I would like to see in an individual, along with some other qualities and traits that are very important to me, and I'm certain to Robert and the search committee, as well as the community. So as to the hard and fast, Ms. Benjamin is tasked with qualifying candidates, and if she wants to add any more to my answer, I welcome her to do that.
Good morning. As Ms. Wilson stated, we did do some research. We contacted national organizations that are a vital resource to the law enforcement community. Those organizations were CALEA, as she stated earlier, which is the Commission on the Accreditation for Law Enforcement, the IACP, which is the International Association of Police Chiefs, PERF, which is a police executive research firm. We also contacted some of our colleagues around the state and did a survey of those entities, Charlotte, Greenville, Rock Hill, Charleston, to see what they were looking for in the years of service for a police chief, a successful police chief. And through that research, we determined that the 7 to 10 years was the range and that 8 years was an appropriate level of experience for this position.
Why is a search committee something that's coming about now? Why was it not something that y'all wanted to put, I guess, in place when y'all first selected or opened the position online, or maybe later in the process when y'all had finalists? Why now?
Well, typically in a process like this, it could be handled any number of ways, but for me, it's very important that I engage these type of subject level experts early on in the process. And I wanted to obviously give ourselves a few weeks to begin to get applications in, let the process get going. However, it is very apparent to me from my communications with the public, the citizens, that they are very in tune to the fact that we need to have a wide array of insight into this process, and that they truly want to have insight of individuals who are vested in this community. So we have the best of both worlds. We have some individuals that, and it takes a while to talk with people, to ask them to lend their talents and their treasures and their time to a process. It means very much to me that these individuals who are stellar and have a wide array of experiences in law enforcement in our state have agreed to commit their time. So the answer to your question about why now is because I tried to give ourselves time to really, talk to people and hear from them on what they feel the needs are as the search continues, and then reach out to the individuals who I think can best serve me to give me that type of input, and Ms. Benjamin, that type of input, because they understand the opportunities, they understand the challenges of Columbia. It's home for them. It's a good fiscal approach, because if you talk about a national recruitment firm, you're talking about a good bit of money. We have the best in both worlds. We have a national search going on where we are getting applications from across the nation. However, we've got local vested stellar law enforcement professionals right here who are willing to serve with me.
What's going to happen next? Will they be meeting, I guess, at certain increments, or will that begin after the position is closed? How's that going to work?
Certainly, the position closes on December the 11th. So at that point, Human Resources will go through a screening, begin a screening of the applications, and at the appropriate time, probably a couple weeks thereafter, we would then begin to engage the search committee with the information that Ms. Benjamin has compiled. Yes, they will meet, fairly regularly with us, understanding, and I'm very understanding of their time constraints. But we will orientate them to the process, do introductory type meeting, and then we'll get to work.
When I spoke to you about a week or so ago, you had left me with the impression that there was still some flexibility that was possible in interpreting the standard in terms of experience and other requirements. Can you be more specific about what kind of flexibility there might be? For instance, when I say hard and fast, are you going to insist that that 8-year standard be met?
I think what we talked about, Jack, was that language you often see in postings where it talks about a combination of experience would be, looked at. And I think Pam is best to answer that question because she is the one who's tasked with that job of qualifying individuals. So I'm going to let her answer that.
With any type of screening process, all candidates are going to come to you with a wealth of knowledge. So we certainly will be looking at their progressive careers and leadership roles in law enforcement organizations. And so we will certainly be using that aid as a guide to help us when assessing those applicants. But we don't have a set profile of any candidate. We want to certainly look at all the attributes and all the experience that someone brings to us and be able to assess all those candidates equitably through the process. And so, we're not sure what the pool is going to bring to us, but we certainly want to make sure that candidates possess some progressive leadership in a law enforcement organization. They've shown themselves and demonstrated that they can be a proven leader, and so that's really what we're looking for.
Is that also true for the other requirements, including the educational background?
Yes, we were looking at their experience in its totality, whether they have master's degrees or PhDs or whether they're college graduates. We'll be looking at that in a complete package.
The master's degree have to be completed?
It's a preferred, but it's not a requirement.
Can you talk a little bit about what exactly the mission is of this committee? They say, these are your best guys. What kind of advice are you seeking from them?
Sure. I'm looking for their candor, and I'm looking for their professional body of experience. You all will get their biographical data shortly if you haven't already, and they bring a wealth of knowledge from across the spectrum. So I'm looking for candid input as we have a candidate pool that we put before them. I'm looking for what we know as far as the history with the department has been some challenges, and what these law enforcement professionals might be able to, add to the table as we are reviewing candidates as far as their backgrounds and how that would complement some of the opportunities and challenges for our community. Because again, I go back to it's a win-win for me. They're vested in the community. They understand where we've been. They understand where we're going, but they also have the law enforcement skills to bring to the table to help me reflect on what will be an ultimately very critical decision.
Will they interview candidates, like I said, before this committee, or can they come in and have answer questions from the committee?
Certainly, they'll have time with the candidates.
In the past, selection processes for chiefs, there's been sometimes a part towards the tail end of the process where you narrow down to several candidates, and those candidates are brought in here to sort of meet the
It will, it will. I mentioned in my opening statement that, actually, council may have gotten my email already, but I'm asking for some suggestions from the council on, community members, neighborhood leaders, business leaders, stakeholders in the community to complement, some folks that I may have thought of to serve. And that's a very common approach. I know the Jacksonville, or Tallahassee, I'm sorry, city manager is also going through a police chief search process now. I believe they've implemented a similar process to what we're doing, particularly in regards to the community stakeholders panel.
Can y'all say about how many applicants y'all have received or how many inquiries y'all have received at this point?
Several, but I'm going to allow Ms. Benjamin to speak to that. I don't know if we're going to give the number, but it's a pretty robust bunch.
Yeah, we have received around 13 applications so far. I hesitate to give you that number because it's not indication of anything. It's just a fact, it's just a number. We have certainly received applications from all over the country, Texas, Washington State, Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, some local. So we have certainly reached out on a national platform and people have responded.
Teresa, this process was delayed because there was some anticipation perhaps the solicitor's office would take that report that has been waiting for and that it would complete whatever considerations it had to make, and then eventually you would have some clear idea of what the status was of the lawsuit. You made a decision at some point to move ahead in the process. Now, since then, have you gotten any indication from the solicitor's office or from any of the federal or state agencies involved that that report is forthcoming anytime soon?
No, I have not gotten a clear timeline on the report. I have had conversations and I'm being briefed, but I haven't gotten a clear timeline on the final report.
Is that frustrating for you?
It isn't frustrating from the standpoint that I really do want them to be thorough. I think that it frustrates our community because, and I recognize that, and that's why I really had to make the decision to move forward, because this kind of unknown is never good, not just for the community, but for our officers. We need a permanent police chief. My hope is that we are conducting such a thorough process here, that we have a lot on our side. There are a lot of positive things going on in our department as far as crime stats being down and cases being solved, albeit we've had several unfortunate incidents. Our officers are working very hard. It frustrates me more for my staff and for the community than my own personal frustration, because I also, as a manager of an entity this size, understand that some things take time, and we want them. It is not appropriate for me to rush anybody when they're doing their jobs as well. But I also have to make decisions, and I think those individuals who are briefing me, whether it's the solicitor or other agencies involved, we all have a good understanding of where we are.
Did you consider at all, because we also have this big referendum on a change in the form of government, which could ultimately, if approved, change the police chief's boss. Did you consider waiting on this, and we waited this long to see what happens with the referendum before we decide to sort of any candidate would know what they're getting into?
Sure. No, I did not give that any consideration. I would tell you my take on this, and in my conversations with Mr. Bolches and those involved, we're taking this pretty seriously. So nobody wants some haphazard process here. Everybody who's committed their time wouldn't be committing their time if they didn't think we were trying to do this right. And what I would say to that is the hope would be that the process is going to go as it should. It will be thorough, and we all hope that we end up with an individual who is committed to this city and well received, and would be well received by this council, a strong mayor, a professional manager. It would be that type of individual that would withstand the test of time and have some longevity, and give our community what it so richly deserves. So that's out of my hands. I mean, I don't know what the future holds. I have to move forward based off the facts in front of me right now.
that Columbia's had trouble holding on to a police chief even after you guys pick one. I mean, is there anything in particular that you guys are looking to make sure you don't get in someone?
I think the permanent police chief for Columbia has to command a presence. That individual has to command a presence with his officers first and foremost and garner a certain level of respect, but also with the community and be able to navigate our very involved community, which as it should be. I mean, we're fortunate that we have such involved community leaders and business folks. However, the individual, I think, who will be successful in our department will know how to have those people skills, but also be firm and know how to navigate the landscape and command the type of presence that people understand when he or she speaks that they are about public safety for this city, and really going into the department, assessing what have been some challenges and dealing with any present challenges that might be there.
Can you say whether or not you got a female applicants?
You can't say that or you
I'm not sure. I don't know this time. I haven't looked at any today. We haven't had any thus far. Is that a clear answer?
Any other questions? I really do wish for you all a blessed holiday. Thanks for coming this morning. Thank you.